Did you hear Art has a special anniversary this month? He has been originating loans since January 6th, 1982. Happy anniversary, Art. 42 years. Well done.
Hey, good morning. Actually, good afternoon. It is Thursday afternoon. And once again, you're here at Mortgage Minute with Art Alvarez. We were just talking off screen, and I didn't get a cake for him, but I should have because he's celebrating a birthday. And I wish I were still only 42. Yeah, I'm a little older than that. I know because of the bags, actually, trunks under my eyes. But here's the thing. Art Alvarez has been doing what he's been doing for you and me as a mortgage broker since January 6th, 1982. Now, with that in mind, wouldn't you want somebody with that level of expertise that has that longevity of staying in his field that long on your side? Well, I think the answer is pretty obvious. And I just want to say, hey, welcome to the show, Art. And congratulations, man. 42 years. That's amazing.
Well, thanks, Jeff. In fact, actually, I like how you described that date, January 6, 82, as my birthday. I wish it was my birthday. So I would have to correct you and suggest that that's more like an anniversary. But yeah, it was January 6, 1982. I had just finished college actually in mid-December of 1981. And literally 3 weeks later, I got in the mortgage business at the beginning of that year.
It'd be fun to look at the lifespan, meaning how long someone stays in the mortgage industry, how long they stay. Sometimes we see somebody like they'll stay in the business for 3 months, 6 months, 2 years, a real estate agent doing something, whatever it is, and compare what you've done because, to have that kind of stickability it's just not heard. It's not heard of in today's society. What do you think is your secret to staying in the business as long as you have?
Well, that's a good question. When I got into it, I totally misread how the business worked, at least in terms of how I got into it and the kind of company I went to work for. I went to work for a mortgage banking company. So of course I had this notion that I was going to work for a bank and that I would report to an office and wear a shirt and tie and sit in a bank branch and wait for somebody to come in and ask for a mortgage. Of course, I quickly found out that wasn't the case at all, that I actually had to go out into the world, mostly real estate offices, and convince real estate agents that I could help them, finance the purchase for their home buyers. And once I learned that, I was scared to death. Growing up, I was about the most introverted, shy person you could ever imagine. And in fact, I remember that date was a Wednesday, and the company provided very little in the way of training and support and so forth. We got business cards and pagers, and that was about it. And otherwise, it was go out there and get some business. Good luck. And so I spent 2 or 3 days, the rest of that week, planning out a route of real estate offices to go to. And on a Friday, I finally got up the courage to leave the office and start going through my route. I pulled into the first real estate office, into the parking lot, and I couldn't get out of the car. I couldn't get out of the car. And I ended up leaving, and I never called on anybody that day. And then what I did is the next day, Saturday, I decided to try again, thinking, well, maybe this will be easier, because I was frankly hoping there would be nobody in the office, because that first office I pulled into on Friday, I could see a lot of people in there, and I was scared to death. I just didn't want to go in there and talk to people. So I went in on a Saturday, the next day, and there was fewer people there, but I learned a very important lesson. And that was the people who were there on Saturday, they were the people who were selling houses. They were the people who were doing things. And I met a gentleman on that Saturday morning who tested me on a particular question on a mortgage. And I had to admit to him I didn't know the answer. But I told him, look, I can get back to you on Monday with the answer. And he actually complimented me on doing that, because he said he could tell I was new just by walking in the door. And so he admitted he had tested other newbies with the same kind of question. And in most cases, that newbie, that person, would basically try to bluff an answer. And he thought I did the right thing by admitting I didn't know it, but telling him I would get back to him right away with the answer, which I did on that following Monday. So it was a very good lesson learned.
Well, we roll out here, 42 years later, and I know you are extremely active. In fact, I remember, when the rates started going up, you immediately said, "Hey, it just means I'm going to be out more and knocking on doors and just being with people, letting them know you're out there." So now, 42 years later, tell me, is it still difficult to get out of the car and walk in, or is it just it's just now part of nature?
No, it's gotten easier. In fact, it's interesting you asked me on that because over the years with that company, I got into upper management, and so at one point I was in charge of all the branches in the company, and I actually ended up becoming the president of the company. Um, and During those periods, I had to do a lot of public speaking, which I was horrible at, terrible at it. I mean, again, something that all of us fear. And I was about the worst of the worst. I couldn't put a sentence together. I would be dripping with sweat and so forth. It was just crazy. And I finally, I don't know, call it maturity or just years of experience. I've gotten over that to where I'm much, much more comfortable in those kind of settings. I'm much more comfortable going to events, and I'm very involved with the local real estate associations, both of them. And so, yeah, it just takes time. It takes practice. You just got to keep doing it till you get to that point of realizing it's okay, and you'll get more comfortable. So it's taken me a long time. Probably it took me close to 20 years to get to that point, but I'm finally there, and I feel like I'm okay at it. So
Well, I just want to raise a flag of congratulations because recently we were at an event that was held at the Palm Springs Air Museum, and the saying is it's not who you know, but who knows you. And as I sat in the room, I watched so many people come up that knew you and said hello and how are you doing. It was very impressive, and I didn't say anything to you, and I haven't said anything to you since that night, but that was very impressive, and that doesn't come by just going to one event. That comes from years and being active. And if it seems like if that's a message you could send to other people. I know this isn't a personal development program we're talking about today, but that to me is a huge nugget that you have created. Is not that you know everyone, but who knows you has helped your business thrive and survive for 42 years. So congratulations.
that's very true. In fact, one thing, early lessons I learned at that mortgage company that I started that first month in January. One of the things they told me was, there are no loans in here. The loans in here in this office, they've already been originated. So if you want to get business, if you want to get loans, you got to go out there. There are none here in the office. And that was another good lesson learned. So you got to get out there. You got to be exposed. You got to meet a lot of people, and you got to do things right and do your business right and so forth. And over time, that'll garner a good reputation. So.
Well, Art, thank you for letting us carve out a little you
Sure.
time there because it's not every day someone has spent this many years in the box, and you don't do that unless you've been very successful. And again, I'm sure there's some nicks and bruises and scars of
Oh yeah.
of the industry, but that's who makes you Art Alvarez of MortgageWorks.